a biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Let's come back to one of those really important issues that we're very attentive to from time to time when it comes to issues around volunteers and the local church. Not everyone's looking for reward, not everyone's looking for recognition, but there is a new initiative that is able to capture something of a level of sponsorship that can be used to enhance the experience of volunteers. As you know, it's very easy for people to slip through the cracks these days. The number of volunteers, much, much lower than it always was, even just a decade or two ago. There's a lot of volunteers that are needed to enhance the sorts of organisations that we're a part of. Well, back with us today, Darryl Vine leads a volunteer initiative called the Firefly Initiative. Darryl, a special welcome back to 2020.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.
So, Darryl, last time we were talking about the benefits to a volunteer, and you were telling me that there are sponsors who would happily make their product available to enhance the way that volunteers are committed to their work, because you've got a new app that people can actually download and it can record their time. That can become a token. They can go and get a discount at whatever sponsor is involved there.
Sure.
Let me ask you about the actual organisation that is able to take advantage of some of the things that you're working with.
Sure.
How does this work for business and not-for-profit organisations?
Yeah, look, and it's a great question, and we're giving great consideration. I mean, we mentioned previously that there's 5 R's in the volunteer sector: the recruit, retain, reward, recognition, and raising funds. When we look at that, the parallel to small business is pretty much the same. You know, they are continually trying to recruit new customers. They want to retain the customers that they have. They want to reward that, and we've seen a proliferation of new loyalty programs come out in the marketplace, and they want to raise their revenue. And those good, those really socially aware businesses that we try and work with, the more profit that business can make is the more opportunity for them to give. So we created that environment. But when you look at the pure economics in today's world as well, it's really hard. You know, we've got major national brands that have disrupted local communities to a degree of the local corner store doesn't exist anymore. So we've got a real appetite and advocacy for trying to support local. You know, it's always been bread and butter of our communities, the local butcher, the local baker, the local hairdresser. So we wanted to create an environment that says you can say thank you to the work that volunteers are doing. And we want to make sure that that's a tailor-made package to you with an offer that makes it profitable to you, whether that's in goods and services or whether that's in cash. And to give you a payment program that actually works with your budget. You know, we've got lots of the accounts now, the Twitter accounts and the Facebook accounts, and we call them that the marketplace is just buying views, not buying results. So we're going to create a dynamic that says, hey, help support the volunteers because they're awesome people, and help generate some business for yourself with that offer. So we have what we call a pay after success model. So you can advertise your business and your goods and services with Firefly to an awesome audience of individual customers, being our volunteers, and you're only going to pay a marketing fee after that success. So after you've received a customer, your business has started to grow, you've said thank you, that's the only time that you have a marketing fee. Unlike the current marketing model, which is put your money in a click account or put your money into an advertising spend, and hopefully we'll attract some customers for you that way. So again, staying on that win-win model, we want to make sure that our model works for all participants.
You know, I think a lot of people will sense a refreshing idea of involving sponsors in the way that volunteers give their time, and usually selflessly, and they're not expecting any payment, but there might be some who might say, well, I don't want to be the target of marketing campaigns that come, but let's just dig into this for a few moments. SAM, you mentioned, SAM, Social Area Marketing.
Correct.
And for people who are local businesses, as you said, the butcher, the baker, they can actually reach people in their own community, at the same time being a blessing to them,
Sure.
and receiving some level of marketing. And as you say, the pay after the fact, in other words, once they've actually made contact with that new volunteer or that volunteer that comes and uses their services, that's when they actually receive the benefit. That's when I guess there's, you've got some level of payment coming to you on your initiative too.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we are a for-profit, for-purpose company, so we need to feed and to pay everybody, the same as every other business. However, we have taken that position that we know that when you're doing good, good happens, and if we can continue to sow into that good. So, and just stepping aside from that for one moment, we look at my own local church community, and you look and you take a position back and go, these people that serve in church are amazing, and they serve in church and out of church. And then we look at some of those things where our churches have got, unbelievable ministries and missions that are happening all over the place that all need funding, and you get to a point where, and I know, and I've sat with some people in service where it's time for offerings, and that's a bit tight, and we would like to do all those things. But the volunteer continues to do what the volunteer does, they continue to serve. So when you start to look at that model, and you can mold that a little bit to how does that now apply outside those four walls? How does it apply to the rest of the volunteer community? Then we can't think of a better, more loyal customer than a volunteer is. They're loyal to their organisation. They're loyal to the cause. They're loyal to their servitude. They're loyal to the fact that they do it because it is a good thing to do. That's the sort of customer that I would want. So we create that environment to just introduce the two parties. We've got a socially conscious business that says it's good to give back and support community, but it's really frustrating and complicated. Like the old sign on the fence at the footy ground doesn't work anymore. To spend your money to get a little name badge doesn't work anymore. We're in this environment where there is mass media being funneled downstream all the time. How do you create some cut through from that noise? Well, we figure that a personal introduction of Neil to the local butcher, because Neil is an awesome volunteer and the local butcher wants to make sure that he continues to engage with the community, is a great win-win as well.
Darryl, what sort of uptake have you seen so far? It's a relatively new initiative. What sort of uptake is there? Because it's something where you've got to have volunteers on side to say, well, I'm going to download that app and take advantage of working an hour and getting a token, and then I've got to be able to take that to one of these sponsors. What's the uptake been like so far?
So we have over 1,000 active users on the platform that are logging hours every day. In the secondary part of that, there's about 19,000 volunteers that have been waiting for iteration number 2, this app. And then the third one is we needed to create the platform to enable some of the larger organisations like St. Finnies, for example, that have 127,000 volunteers. Now, between you and me, Neil, and there's a validation process. So a volunteer does an hour, someone has to check that. I don't know whether you and I would sit there and do 127,000 emails per day. So we had to create a hierarchical process to enable them. So, our plan is to expand. We're looking at having 100,000 users on platform by the end of this year. The interesting thing for us and the thing that's really exciting is without any attempt, we now have organisations in 13 different countries that have heard about it and are starting to onboard. So, it's been an organic process. It's been a process that we've tried to manage because we knew our first dip the toe in the water was not going to be adequate for some of the larger organisations, and we needed to build the second version. That's now been launched. So we're pretty excited about what onboarding is going to look like from now on.
Let's talk about small business owners and in communities, whether they're in any state or territory all around the country. And as you say, this actually works overseas too. There's no limits. It's all an app, and no doubt language issues, you can resolve those even as well.
Sure.
So for that small business owner that's listening to us now, what is the way that it works for them if volunteers in their community are a part of this program and then they turn up at their business to spend some dollars?
Yeah, look, it's our marketplace system and what we call our redemption process. The small business and I'll use Neil as the small business again.
Okay.
So Neil has an offer, and one of the things that we're really mindful of is that some small businesses might like to say, hey, listen, I'd like to generate some more trade on Tuesday, or I'd like to generate some more trade on Thursday. They're our quiet days. So I'm happy to offer even a better deal to increase those days. So we can tailor make that to you. The volunteer then has your offer, and they just walk in store and open their app and display that offer to you. At that point in time, it's bona fide. Yes, we've made the offer, and it's a simple touch of the button that says, let's redeem that offer, and they proceed with their transaction.
And the business then that has got that new business from the volunteer who's been working hard in the community,
Yep.
And they might have even offered a discount or however that works, then they pay a fee then, so it's the after-the-fact advertising.
Correct. Yeah. So at the end of the month, then relative to how many volunteers have been to Neil's business and how many have redeemed his offer, and we have all local business the same marketing fee. It's $2.50 per transaction. It's not about what's the volume of the transaction. It's not about how many you make. It's a simple model because we want to keep it simple because simple is really good. Right? It always seems to work. So it doesn't matter whether that's 10 transactions for the month or 100 transactions for the month. What we've done is make sure that, and being, both my co-founder, Courtney Smith, and myself, we've been in business together since 2006. So a good stretch of time. We've both been small business owners. We both understand that economics. So we wanted to make sure that, one, it's a malleable opportunity, and two, that you get to determine how many offers you can make, how many offers you'd like to make, how many volunteers you'd like to say thank you to, where you'd like them to be. Courtney's other business, and he's pretty switched on sort of guy, is all about telematics. So all our app is GPS navigational as well. So you might be a volunteer here on the Gold Coast, but you're tripping and holidaying in Melbourne. And all you do is go, show me the rewards and opportunities in Melbourne, and it will map all that for you. So we think we're pretty close to creating the win-win-win scenario to make it as simple and as easy to use as possible for everybody.
And for listeners who are interested in how you enhance the volunteer experience, this might be something you want to explore. I'll point you to a website where you can find some details. It's called fireflyinitiative.xyz. That's the name of the website, fireflyinitiative.xyz. And certainly church life around volunteering, very, very significant. To be able to bring sponsors into the mix who may well be able to use that as an advertising opportunity, but therefore passing on to a volunteer some level of reward for their shopping at their business. That's a very powerful thing. Fireflyinitiative.xyz. And, of course, I think the app is in your app store to download that and make that effective for the business or the organisation that you are leading. Darryl Vine leads the initiative called the Firefly Initiative. Darryl, thanks so much for sharing these insights with us again today on 2020.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.